Kia ora and good afternoon, everyone. From one of the Gymnastics New Zealand bubbles to yours, I hope you're doing well and I hope you're managing to navigate the lockdown process as best you can. These are certainly challenging and uncertain times that we're all navigating, and I hope you're all looking out for each other. I'm sure you'll all be doing lots of things as we are, and just wanted to let you in on a few of the things that we're managing to progress during our time in lockdown. There's a memo coming out this afternoon through Help Desk. It'll be attached to this link on Facebook and on our website. I just wanted to go through a couple of key points that I know you'll be interested in. The first one is events. Events in particular is, I know, pretty topical. It's a key focus for our year across all aspects of events. And obviously it's come to a screaming halt with the lockdown process that we're currently under. The first thing, I guess, that hinges a lot of our events together is nationals. We've completed a pretty thorough assessment of whether or not nationals can occur this year. And at its board meeting last evening, the Board of Gymnastics New Zealand determined that nationals for 2020 will be cancelled and it will not be rescheduled in 2020. Lots of avenues were examined to try and reschedule nationals, but with the level of uncertainty that is there post-lockdown, we wanted to give the community some security around what we think nationals will look like, and that effectively means it won't be held this year. It will be rescheduled for the second term holidays next year at the same venue at Truss, Auckland and Waitakere. We're working through a few elements of the calendar for next year that will determine whether or not it is the first or the second week in those term holidays, and we'll let you know that as soon as we possibly can. It was, as I say, a tough decision, but ultimately we've made it with multiple considerations that you'll see in the memo, taking into account such factors as athlete well-being, financial implications for clubs, for regions and for us, provincial complexities, running a qualification system, and the availability of venue. So all of those have contributed to the fact that nationals won't occur this year. Also, the GFA club championships have also been cancelled and rescheduled to the same time following year, being the third term holidays. As you know, the endorsed and non-endorsed events calendar is currently suspended. We know that some of you have been working on the possibility of events in the second half of the year. We know that technical committees certainly have, and our events team will now be working with the technical committees to determine what each event's calendar for each code will look like in the second half of the year. We'll be working on that over the coming weeks. You should expect that we'll be able to give you some clarity on that once lockdown is completed. In the meantime, again, in reading the memo, no events have been rescheduled, none have been endorsed or authorised by us to be in the second half of the year until such time as we're able to coordinate the calendar. So please look out for that, and we look forward to your input into that process. It's not a decision we thought we would make or need to make, but it's one we feel the community needs to have some surety on to be able to progress the balance of the year. In that memo, you'll also see updates from the community sport team around the work that relationship managers are doing with individual clubs across this lockdown. We know things are still happening, and we're trying to work with you on making some of those things occur. Education is doing a lot of marking, a lot of online resourcing, and is also looking at what the education calendar for the second half of the year will also look like, as is programs. Sector update is the next area that the memo addresses, and by sector update effectively mean the sport and recreational activity sector has been meeting virtually regularly multiple times a week across multiple GNZ staff members to filter information through organisations like Active Auckland and Sport New Zealand, to give information to government departments like the Ministry of Health as to what the situation on the ground is in relation to our community and our sport, and feeding into decision making that they may be making on our behalf. A few topical issues we address in the memo. Class 4 gaming trusts is one of those, which is a pretty topical area. For all of you, I know, as you rely, as we do, on support, great support of the Class 4 gaming trusts. At the moment, you'll of course be aware that they're shut down. Essentially, when the venues close and the gaming machines are switched off, the revenue stops and applications cease. You should assume that your application, if you have one in, has been put aside, and you will need to resubmit when those gaming trusts reopen, and they'll probably call for applications about 4 to 6 weeks after they reopen, and you should watch out for that. We're also feeding into a recovery plan that Sport New Zealand is putting in place to present as a model for the Ministry of Finance in particular to incorporate in their budget thinking. And the budget, of course, is currently scheduled for May. This is a recovery plan, not a rescue plan, so essentially it's addressing elements that we believe as a sector government are going to need to consider when we talk about recovering the ground that sport will have lost as a result of COVID-19 and its implications. One of those, of course, is restrictions post-lockdown. And while there's some detail in the memo, there's a lot of detail that's still yet to be worked out that we're waiting on from government. We've effectively been feeding into that information from you in relation to what the implications of certain restrictions will be for how our clubs operate. So it would not be safe to assume that the restrictions that were in place for each level leading into lockdown will be the same restrictions that will be there coming out of lockdown. So we'll pass on that information to you when we know it, and when we can give you greater clarity on how the post-lockdown restrictions are going to impact on how you're able to operate your clubs. Obviously, pretty topical is financial, and it's been great to get the government support for organisations all the way down to clubs to compensate for lost revenue and the ability to hold on to and retain staff and employees, which is pretty important. A number of you hold, all of you hold incredible intellectual property around our sport and providing our sport to the wider public. And we certainly hope you're managing to keep on to your key people so that you can do that post-lockdown. The board also recognises that clubs face a level of financial uncertainty as we do. And so also at their board meeting of last evening, they passed the following resolution: that in light of the current environment we are facing, the board has moved that the fee increase for 2020 for terms 2, 3 and 4 be revoked. So in simple terms, the fee increase that was applied for this year will not apply for terms 2, 3 and 4. We hope this little bit helps. We just need you to know that we're here to support you as best we can, and our philosophy is really to give you a hand up as opposed to a handout. So we'll continue to work with you as a community and as individual clubs to meet the challenges that are being thrown at you financially as best we can and that are within our capabilities. Lastly, in the memo, we talk about AGM. And obviously, in light of the fact that Nationals is now cancelled, the face-to-face AGM that we were looking to hold at Nationals will now no longer take place. This will actually now take place as a virtual meeting, and the board passed the following resolution in relation to that due to the current environment and the uncertainty of travel restrictions, the board has decided that the AGM planned for the 18th of July 2020 will now be held electronically. This decision has been made in accordance with the Article 17.16 of the Constitution. So it will notify you of what that platform is, how you'll be able to access it, but in all other respects, the AGM will follow the processes and obligations that are outlined in the Constitution. That's about it from the memo. You can, as I say, pick up more detail in the memo. But look, ultimately, we're here to support you. We're here to help. I've been heartened by what I've seen in various digital platforms of how our clubs are reaching out to their members and engaging them on a daily and if not weekly basis to give them information, to give them activity and to keep them active. It's been really great to see, and I really applaud you for the work that you're doing in trying to stay connected and engaged in this current disconnected environment that we're working in. I have to say I've never seen our community more connected and more engaged than I have at any time that I've been here. So I commend you for what you're doing. I encourage you to look out for each other, to follow the mantra of being kind, and to kia kaha, stay strong.